Hello and welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Maureen and here you will find a little beauty, a little books, and a little teaching content. So if that sounds like something you might enjoy, I would love for you to subscribe and stick around and join me in my little corner of YouTube. Today's video is going to be my 24 in 2024 TBR. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now I have done, I believe, 3 previous versions of this. Yeah, 2021, 2022, and 2023. I will link all 3 of those lists down in the description box if you would like to go back and check them out. But basically, I come up with a list of books from my Goodreads Want to Read list that I plan on reading in the new year. Now, the way my list works out is that I look at that Want to Read list sorted by when the book was added to my Goodreads, and I take the oldest books for half of the list, and then I add just random books that I'm interested in for the remainder of the list. So because 24 is an even number, I decided to take the 12 oldest books from my Want to Read list. So that's what we're going to start with. And then I just added 12 other books that I'm looking forward to reading for various reasons. I am not going to go into a lot of depth on what these books are about. I'm just going to tell you the title and let you know why I added it to my TBR for 2024. So this is part 2 of my TBR because I also have already filmed and shared my series TBR, which I will link up above. So this is in addition to those series books that I'm wanting to read. It comes out to quite a few books, but I managed it last year and I think I can do it again this year. So let's just go ahead and dive on into the list. So the first book on this list is The History of the Peloponnesian War by Thucydides. This is a nonfiction book about the Peloponnesian War during ancient Greece times, I believe. Last year I read The Histories by Herodotus. I enjoyed that one, so I'm looking forward to reading this one as well. This is, as of right now, the oldest book on my TBR, the one that's been on my Want to Read list for the longest. So I needed to go ahead and put it on here this year. I am receiving this book for Christmas. I already know because I asked for it. So I will have a physical copy of this. I did read The Histories by Herodotus physically because the audio just was not doing it for me. So I'm assuming that's going to be how I'm going to read this one as well. Most likely I'm going to give myself a full month to tackle it. So stay tuned for that later on in 2024. The next oldest book on my Want to Read list is Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. This is a classic, for lack of a better word. I know a lot of people really love this. It has a pretty high rating on Goodreads. I have seen the film. I have not watched the TV show, but I am looking forward to reading the source material and seeing how this compares to the movie. So this will be the second book that I'm hoping to tackle in the new year. Then I have a couple of books that I do own physically, but I don't know where they are. They're in a box somewhere, but number 3 is The Host by Stephanie Meyer. This was her release after the Twilight series. I read the first 2 1/4 of the Twilight books. I stopped reading in the 3rd book because I just didn't care anymore. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. This was like her adult debut, I believe. And I have heard from a friend of mine that she quite enjoyed it, although it's long and a little slow to get started. So this will be one that I tackle this year. I hope that I enjoy it, or, you know, you may see it on my DNF list. And the 4th book is White Cat by Holly Black. This is the start of another series, but this is one that I do own physically, but again, can't put my hands on right now. It is YA. I'm not sure how much I'm going to enjoy it because my reading tastes have definitely changed since I created that Want to Read list, but since I do own it physically, I kept it on the list. So we'll see how this goes. It is a trilogy. I may decide to quit after the first book. I may not even make it through the first book because YA Holly Black has not really been my thing, but we'll see how it goes. You will find out later this year. At number 5 is a biography. It is The Dirt, Confessions of the World's Most Notorious Rock Band by Neil Strauss, and it is all about Motley Crue. I am a big 80s metal glam girl. That's what I was kind of raised on when I was little. I watched a lot of MTV. Motley Crue was one that got a lot of airtime on MTV, so obviously I'm very familiar with their music, their story, and I've actually seen them live. So I am looking forward to reading this one. I know it's quite a bit older at this point. I can't remember when it was first published, and things have definitely changed, but I'm looking forward to giving it a read anyway. I think it's going to be a good time. There is an audio version of this, so I will be curious to check that out and see how it goes. All right, at number 6 is a classic. This is King Solomon's Mine by H. Rider Haggard. This is one that I picked up when I worked at Barnes & Noble. I have a lot of these Barnes & Noble editions because I picked them up just willy-nilly when I worked at the bookstore, and they always had a really steep discount, so this is one that I picked up. I don't actually know what this is about at all. It says, this has inspired dozens of adventure stories though, like the Tarzan books and the Indiana Jones movies, so I guess it's got that going for it. But this has been on that want to read list since 2012. It's time to give it a read. This will be another classic that I can check off my shelves, and I do have a goal to read more classics this year, so this will definitely help with that. We'll see how it goes. Next up, I have a book that I was supposed to read back in grad school and never got a chance to read because things just got too busy. So this is Tamar. This is by Mal Peet. The little subtitle says, a novel of espionage, passion, and betrayal. This is set during World War II. It's set in 1944. It says 2 undercover operatives parachute into Nazi-occupied Holland. So that's what the premise of this is. Most of my classmates really enjoyed this. I just did not have time to read it with my full-time job and the other coursework that I was having to do. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. This is an old library book. I found it at a library book sale and was super excited because I had heard such good things about it from my classmates. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. I typically have very good luck with World War II based books, so hopefully I will love this one. And sticking with the World War II theme, I have a nonfiction book. This is Eyewitness Auschwitz 3 Years in the Gas Chambers by Philip Mueller. And this is a nonfiction book that I have owned for a very long time. Obviously, this is an autobiography. Philip Mueller was a prisoner in Auschwitz, and it's basically his account of what was going on. So I have read several memoirs and things like that of survivors of the Holocaust, World War II, etc. I'm looking forward to reading this one. It's not actually that long, but it does have kind of small print, but I still think that I will find this compelling and enjoyable is not really the right word, but interesting, impactful, and I'm looking forward to giving it a read this year. The 9th book on this list is the start of yet another series, but it is Heist Society by Allie Carter. I finished the Gallagher Girls series this year in 2023, so I'm looking forward to reading this other series. I do have a feeling that I will enjoy it because I did like the Gallagher Girls series so much, and there actually is a book where like the cast of characters cross over. It's like a little novella, which I have owned since it was released and never read because I haven't actually read Heist Society, so I'm looking forward to reading this one, seeing how it compares. I do think it might be a little bit more older YA than the Gallagher Girls series was, but I'm looking forward to reading it nonetheless, even if it does add another series to my TBR. At number 10 is Brightly Woven by Alexandra Bracken. This is a book that got a lot of hype way back in the day. A lot of people on Goodreads were speaking very highly of it. This was her debut, I believe. She released it before the Darkest Minds series, so a lot of people were going back and reading this one, and that's why it was getting so much hype. It's been on my want to read list solely because of the hype that it received back in the day. It sounded interesting, even though now I cannot recall at all what it's about, but I am looking forward to reading it and seeing what I think. At number 11 is Wildwood Dancing by Juliet Marillier, I think is how you pronounce her name. This, I believe, is a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, but I could be totally wrong on that. I love the 12 Dancing Princesses. I've read multiple retellings of this story, so this is another one that I am looking forward to reading. I've also heard very good things about her as an author, so we'll see what I think and finally cross it off my list because this is another one that's been on there since 2012. And the final older book is The Name of the Star by Maureen Johnson, a start of yet another series, but this is a paranormal thriller based around the time of Jack the Ripper. I've heard very good things about the first book and not so great things like as the series went on, but I'm just putting the first one on this list. We'll see what I think about it. Hopefully I will enjoy it because I do think it sounds really interesting. All right, now for the rest of this list, I decided to go with authors that I have previously read from before and really enjoyed. So book number 13 is The Fountains of Silence by Ruta Sepetys. I have read 3 books by her and have given all 3 5 stars. So this one obviously has big shoes to fill, but I picked this one up from Book of the Month. I believe it was like my birthday pick, not last year, but the year before. So I'm looking forward to reading it. This one's set in Madrid during the year 1957. And again, I've loved everything I've read by her, so I'm hoping this one will be no different. The next one is Hold Still by Nina LaCour. She is another author that I have read, I believe, 3 books from previously. I've given 2 of them 5 stars, one of them like 4.5 stars. So she is what I consider a favorite author, and I'm looking forward to reading her backlist, getting through all of her books. And this is an easy way for me to do that by putting this on the list. I am anticipating good things because, again, I've liked everything I've read by her so far. At 15, we have Far From the Tree by Robin Benway. She is another author that I have read multiple books from before and really, really enjoyed. I've heard good things about this one. This is a YA book. You'll see a lot of YA on this list because that is kind of what my focus was when I set my Goodreads up. But she is an author that I've really enjoyed reading from before. I'm hopeful that I will enjoy this one as well. I've heard this one is kind of impactful and emotional, and I'm looking forward to it. At 16, we have Stepsister by Jennifer Donnelly. I have only actually ever read 1 other book by her, and I gave it 5 stars. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. It is a Cinderella retelling focused on one of the stepsisters, so we will see what I think. At 17, I have Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I have read 2 books by her that I've given 5 stars, and then I read her adult debut earlier in the month of December and didn't like that one quite as much. That's kind of putting it mildly. I gave it 3 stars, but this is another YA book. I believe it's written in verse. I've liked her previous 2 YA books a ton, so we will see how I feel about this one. At number 18 is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. I read The Villa earlier in 2023, gave that one 4 stars, I think. And then I also read Reckless Girls, and I flew through that one. I gave that one like 4.5 stars. So I'm looking forward to reading The Wife Upstairs. It is a Jane Eyre retelling, and I'm actually going to be reading Jane Eyre this year. So it will be kind of interesting to see how well she adapts the original source material, but I've liked both of her previous adult thrillers, so I feel like this one has a pretty good chance of being enjoyable as well. At number 19 is Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. This is one that's just gotten a lot of hype. I'm looking forward to reading it. I believe it's like time travel-ish, a thriller that's kind of right up my alley. It sounds very interesting. I hope I enjoy it. At number 20 is Katherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. I have not had the best of luck with dark academia books, and it's quite possible that this book will suffer that same fate. But so many people talk about Katherine House and how it influenced the genre, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it. So I'm looking forward to reading it, even if I don't really love it. I do know that it was a Literally Dead book club pick several years ago, but that was before I started reading the book club picks. So I'm a few years late on it, but I do want to check it out, and 2024 will be the year I do so. At 21 is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. I've read 2 books by her, but a couple years ago I read Sharp Objects, which I really quite enjoyed. So I'm looking forward to reading Dark Places. I feel like it's another like thriller that has some potential to be very good. So I'm looking forward to checking it out this year. At 22, I have put Girl Sleuth, Nancy Drew and the Women Who Created Her by Melanie Rehak. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I apologize. But this is basically a nonfiction look at the Nancy Drew books, their creation, the people who wrote her stories, because Nancy Drew was written by several different ghostwriters, and I feel like this should be an interesting look at just the background of how the stories came about and things like that. So I'm looking forward to reading this one, especially since I am doing a Nancy Drew reread. All right, we're almost done. At 23 is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I have only ever read Beach Read by her, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. I actually own all of her adult romance books and need to get through them. So I put this one on the list, but you will probably see other books by her throughout the course of the year because I would like to read her backlist and get ready for her newest one, which comes out later this year. So this is the one I've put on the list just because this is the second oldest that I've owned, and we will see how this one goes because I have heard that this one is hit or miss for some people. And the final book on this list is Love on the Brain by Hazelwood. I read The Love Hypothesis in 2023 and absolutely loved it. So I'm hoping I like this one just as well. I've heard that some people have not, but I'm willing to give it a go. This is another author that I own multiple books from, but I've only read one of them. So I own everything she's released up to this point, including the YA book that she released like later in 2023. So this will be the one that I tackle for my official TBR, but don't be surprised if you see other Hazelwood sprinkled throughout my reading this year. And there you have it. That is my 24 and 2024 TBR. If you have read any of these books, please let me know down below. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel if you would like to see more from me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.